Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Feed My Sheep, Earthquake Reports and More. I'm Terry Rampel, and it's the 25th of May. And we have a new scale up. We're including the wormwood influence. There we are here, and we're seeing an elevated influence today. And we're seeing that through the volcanoes, and here we see a 10% increase approximately across the entire west side of North America, from Alaska down to into the Sierra Nevadas. So that's the big change, the reason that we're reporting today. And we get online for the major changes, and that's what we're seeing today. So we're going to show you a bunch of that, evidence of what's going on. Here we had a couple of earthquakes south of Mammoth. You can see them down here. South and a little bit to the east. And what did those look like? Well, from South Long Valley Caldera, it looked like this. Now, these seismograms are all at slightly different levels of amplitude, so that it's not going to exactly be that size for all of them. But that's not one, but two earthquakes. We're going to see evidence of that. Looking from Kozo Volcanic Field to the south, one of the available seismic stations exposes both earthquakes due to signal delay and size reduction, and so we're looking at a pair of near threes. So there's the two of them looking from Kozo Volcanic Field. Other sites show the signals larger and combine the two also at Kozo. Now there's another earthquake showing up here. Another one there. So there's quite a bit of activity around. From Mammoth Mountain, we show earlier infill and later uplift fracturing from a near peak site. There it is here, and that's a fairly significant uplift fracturing. This is Long Valley Caldera near the hot springs. The Whitmore Hot Springs, I think. And that's the earthquake there. This is northern Long Valley Caldera. There's quite a bit of uplift fracturing showing up at the top. And looking from just south of Lassen, there's the earthquake signal there. East of Lassen, north of Lake Almanor. And you can see this is turned down by comparison. That's a very small signal, the double earthquake down south of Mammoth. Compare that to this signal, which is in fairly close proximity. And then this signal. So these, all of these signals up here are going to be much larger. So north of Lake Almanor, lots of activity, and we've had some recent small earthquakes there as well. And these signals continue east towards Susanville. And so we've got some long period pulsed magma signals in there. We had the same thing up here. Mixed into this, if you take a good close look. Can I make this any larger? No, I can too. There we are. You can see there's some long period signals through here. And those are typical of long period pulsed magma signals. Magma movement in the crust. Northeast of Mount Lassen is also very active with infill and long periods of uplift fracturing. Again, the signal from south of Mammoth, the earthquakes there, is quite small. So this is certainly not over amplitude. We're seeing all of the small tremors of infill and all the large signals of long period uplift fracturing is what we're getting here. Uplift fracturing in the volcanic zone is caused by magma infill. North Shasta is quite active with strong long pulsed magma signals, infill tremors, and long period uplift fracture signals as well. So there you have it. Very significant activity. So this is again another increase, another site with an increase. This site at Black Butte is right adjacent to Mount Shasta. It's very close by. And they probably share the same magma source. And the activity there is also quite high. We don't normally see it this busy. Medicine Lake Volcanic Field also showing advances in activity. Pretty clearly on this one. But it's all over the northeastern portion of California from Mount Lassen north. It's all very active through there. A little west of Medicine Lake, volcanic field. And this is east of Mount Hebron. And look at all the uplift fracturing we see there. So that's magma infill in the lava beds. There's a lot of lava bed areas. Crater Lake, and there's a lot of other features, volcanic features throughout there. A lot of small volcanoes and buttes and cones. Crater Lake, Wizard Island, moving north, also active. Not terribly active, but active. South Newberry, that's a little more active than normal. Finn Rock. This is in the Sierra Nevadas east of Newberry, or west of Newberry, kind of central Sierra, or Cascades, rather. And this is fairly active for a site that's, really not talked about much as a volcanic site, but it's right in the center of the volcanic trend of the mountains. So the PSN Moon Mountain Site has not been transmitting data since the 5th of this month. That's right beside Mount Bachelor, and this has been a very active site for over 2 years. So I reduced the amplitude of this one to 60%. To me, it looked like it was set too high according to the baseline values, and that this should provide a more accurate representation of the activity. So I've toned it down to 60% of what it was showing. And I wonder if its proximity to Mount Bachelor with its high public use was cause for it to be shut down. I have really no idea. Sites go down, but this has been active for a long time, and it's a quite active site. This is not unusual activity for Moon Mountain. We don't know what it's like today. This is back on the the 5th. Trout Creek Butte is showing uplift fracturing, as we see up at the top there, and magma infill tremors. We're getting steam burst signals from CC Butte, which is south of Mount Hood, north of Jefferson. So those small lines are typical of deep steam burst signals. They may not make it to the surface as steam. They can be occurring quite deep. This is Mount Hood at the base. Lots of activity there. This is the Hood Meadows site, I believe. This is east, Mount Hood on the east side. Significant activity there. Little increase. Mount Augsburger. Now this is just north of the Columbia River, south of Mount Adams. A site I don't show very often because it's seldom very busy. So this is a tremor increase at Mount Augsburger. Ignore this. And these are just right beside Mount Augsburger, locks of the Columbia River. Pulse magma signals and tremors. So this is from the lock. Some might say, oh, it's the locks opening and closing. Well, it's not, because we can go over to the Kelso Airport in close proximity to the Columbia River, and we find long period pulse magma signals there as well, as we do at Yellow Pit, which is well to the east at the bend of the Columbia River. And even up the Snake River, just up from the junction with the Columbia. Long period pulse magma signals. So the fault that allowed the upwelling of the massive Columbia River basalt Pluton system, so there's a massive amount of basalts, some over a mile deep, I understand, along the Columbia River system. And that's a pluton that was set down. Some of it's at the surface and a lot of it's way down deep. And this was due to the very active magma channel within the Columbia River. And it's very active again, according to the seismology. So, and we see this beginning at Megler, Washington, where the most active seismogram is. So out at the bay. The mouth of the Columbia. Mount St. Helens Sugar Bowl. Busier than normal. Give you a little longer look at that. These more solid lines in here, that's a little more than normal. What we don't normally see is the activity stretching all the way from the southernmost sites that we can track all the way to the north. This is Johnson Ridge Observatory north of Mount St. Helens. Very active. Mount Adams, also active. More than normal. This is east of Mount Rainier at Panhandle Gap. That's a fair bit of tremor activity, isn't it? More than normal. And a big increase in VLF tremor seen at the peak of Mount Rainier, Camp Muir. So there's where we were last night, 5 o'clock. And look at how much that's increased. This is the southwest base of Mount Rainier. This is the west base of Mount Rainier. So when the whole west side of North America, at least as much as we're tracking down through the Sierra Nevadas, when it's all active, all the way north to south, that's well beyond normal as well, that all those sites would be busy at the same time. And that makes you question what's causing that much stress on the continent that they would all be busy at once. And that brings us to the brown dwarf or wormwood. More evidence. Not proof, not absolute proof, but more evidence. Seems we have more unreported earthquake activity near Mount Rainier, so we've got some small earthquakes as well. Not big stuff. This is the largest activity I've ever seen from Glacier Peak. That's a lot. It might be a little over amplitude, but not a lot. Mount Baker is showing a big jump, major activity today. So there's the change. You can see it this morning and how much it's picked up through the day. And this is Mount Constitution on Orcas Island, also a volcano. Lots of volcanic tremors there. Now, the tremors carry on up north. Now, I can't show you tremors at volcanoes, but I can show you shoreline tremors and tremors along the island, Vancouver Island on the west coast. This is Galiano Island in the Gulf Islands, and we can see the tremors. We only have 10 minutes of data, 1 hour of data here, 10 minutes here, and 1 minute up here. So I can't show you just by comparison. You're getting just a peek at each site compared to the 10 or 14, 16 hours at Mount Constitution or longer on some of these. This is Sharp Point, BC. This is kind of the midpoint western Vancouver Island. So lots of tremors. And Fair Harbor, a little further north. This is Wrangell. This is Warrenkovsky Island in southeast Alaska is what it is, and it's a volcano. Volcanic island. I think it was 6-8 miles across, something like that. Anaheim Lakes, northeast of Vancouver Island, east of Bella Bella, so we're inland and having tremors there as well. A little north of there at Port St. James, more tremors. And I threw Lake Almanor on there. I've just found that we've got NorCal seismograms back. They've been gone for over 6 months. So they've just come back. I'm going to do a quick report on Northern California fairly soon, based on the activity that I find. I've gone through some of the sites, and most of the sites around, well, a lot of the sites are down. A lot of the sites, the general site is back up, but a lot of the eastern sites are not working. So we're going to have to see what we can come up with in regards to a report specifically for Northern California now that we have the seismic system back up and running. All right. So we're seeing brown dwarf or wormwood effects, or we believe we are. Looks like evidence for it. Advancing towards some of the prophecies that we have in the Bible for the last days of Great Tribulation, the time of Great Tribulation, the last 3.5 years. And certainly the world circumstances, it's poly-crisis is the best way to describe what's going on around the world, with challenges in financially. There's food shortages, oil issues of energy and inflation. There's just so much going on right now. The earthquakes is one aspect of what's going on, but I think there's been 15 refineries have been had fires or explosions in the last 3 months. So even if they get the oil moving to the refineries, there's not enough of them left to keep up with demand. So we're going to see some major inflationary outcomes from that, because the price of oil affects everything. So there's a lot going on. It's fitting very much with the end times prophecies, how everything's going to get much, much more difficult through this time. So this is, the last minutes of when you can prepare. I mean, when we're talking about how long we've been warning that things are going to get tough, things are going to get very difficult. It's in the Bible, and it's the Bible's never been wrong, and we know the time that we're in. We study to learn that, and you're not allowed to know the day that Christ is coming back. We're certainly able to know the season, and we're in that season of His return, the time of Great Tribulation. Just getting into it, and look at what AI can do with surveillance over everyone. So the potential of having a mark is now there. And it never was before. And that actually ties back to Solomon, who received 666 talents in tribute, and had 6 steps to his throne with 6 lions on each side. Again, 666. So that's the Bible confirming what 666 actually means. It relates to King Solomon turning all the people away from God into idols. That's the biggest takeaway from that. He was the wisest man on earth, but he was turned to false gods by his wives. And he was warned, and he did all kinds of things that were, the kings of Israel were told not to have chariots and not to get horses from Egypt and various different things. And he broke, so many of the laws of the kings. So he acted while he was instrumental in building the temple. He was there doing that. He was also building himself up and turning Israel away to false gods, and that separated the kingdom as soon as he was done. As soon as he died, the kingdom separated, and the northern kingdom turned to idols. So it's quite the history. So when you're looking at 666, and it says, "Here is wisdom," the wisdom of Solomon is what comes to play. So I hope that gives you some biblical insight into what's going on as well. And we'll be back again with, hopefully pretty quickly, with a Northern California report, and we'll see you shortly. Go with God's blessings. Ours don't do much, but God's do a lot. And we'll see you next time on Feed My Sheep, Earthquake Reports, and more. Bye for now.